So I've talked about most of the Pixar games here. You name it, Toy Story 1 through 3, both Incredibles games, Finding Nemo, Brave, whatever this was, etc. I've basically talked about all the console games, and it was fun, mostly, but I only covered one side of the history. I haven't talked about the handheld games yet. And let me tell you, there were so many handheld games out there, probably even more than console games. And originally this video was just gonna be me talking about those games, but I had a more crazier idea in mind. What if we talked about every Pixar game? Like not just the handheld games, but also revisit the console games, since it's been years since I've talked about a lot of them, and we rank everything on a tier list like this. Yeah, this is gonna be a huge undertaking. Plus, I mean, there is that cool re-release of all the Toy Story games coming soon, so yeah, probably a good time to finally finish this little retrospective up. Before we start though, some ground rules. Number one, we're only talking about Pixar-centric games, not general Disney games that just have Pixar characters in them. So, for instance, stuff like Disney Skateboarding, Disney Friends, Disney Infinity, those don't count for this list. Number two, I'm only going to be ranking the Pixar games on consoles and handheld, so no games that are only on PC, no mobile games, no web browser games, none of that. I'm also only talking about games on the main consoles and handhelds, like the ones that everyone knows, so no Leapfrog, no V-Smile, whatever this thing was, just the games that were on the main systems. Lastly, when it comes to how I go about with the different versions, I'm only counting every unique version of a game. So, for instance, I would be ranking Asobo's Wally, Heavy Iron's Wally, and the DS versions separately, since obviously they are all completely different and unique games. But I wouldn't be ranking Finding Nemo on GameCube separately from the PS2 or Xbox version, since, yeah, the GameCube version is worse, but they're all the same general game, so no reason to do that. And that should do it. Sorry for the long rules, but I had to get that out there beforehand so it all makes sense. This is gonna be a long one. I'm talking about over 50 games in this video, so I'd grab a drink beforehand. But as always, I'll leave timestamps below if you need them. We'll be going in a rough chronological order with release dates, so let's finally begin. Toy Story 1 is a really interesting game. It's the only Pixar console game that was on the Super Nintendo and Genesis, which I find really cool. I know most people think about Pixar games from like the PS1 and PS2 eras, yet technically it started in the 16-bit generation. When I talked about this game a while back, I wasn't a big fan of it. I didn't like the platforming, I thought the graphics were pretty unappealing, it was brutally hard, the vehicle segments were just awful. I just didn't like this game whatsoever. But honestly, after revisiting it for this video, I've grown a lot softer towards it. I still don't think it's a great game, especially compared to the other 16-bit Disney games, but it's not bad either. I think Woody feels pretty good to control, and platforming is honestly pretty solid. It's still hard, but I find it more fair in most areas than I remembered. The soundtrack I've always loved, like the first level theme, especially in the PC version, is such a banger. Also, as time has gone on, I've kind of appreciated 90s pre-rendered graphics a lot more. There's just something about them that I just really like, so looking back at how this game looks, I actually really dig it. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still stuff I'm not a fan of. I still think the vehicle segments are trash, the bosses are just bad, and the difficulty later on gets really obnoxious. I still wouldn't say this is one of my all-time favorites, but again, after replaying it, I think it's an alright game for what it was. I'm happy I gave this a revisit, and I could see why people do like this one. For the very first Pixar game, it's not a bad start at all. I'm gonna put this in C tier, but it's not a low C. The Game Boy version is really strange. This is basically a demake of the console game, and well, I commend them for getting most of the console game on here, like that is pretty cool, but wow, this game looks rough. It honestly looks like one of those bootlegs you'd see on the Famicom. Which is ironic considering Toy Story actually has a bootleg on the Famicom, but still, this game just looks like a bootleg. It doesn't feel like an official game. There isn't even much music, but what's here is so ear-grating to listen to. Like, I'm not even gonna play any of it here because it's just so ear-grating, I don't want to hurt anyone's ears. In terms of gameplay, well, it's practically similar to the console version. It has some of the same levels, you're still playing as Woody, though he feels like he's on the moon with how floaty he feels. The cutscenes are just text on a background with no images, which honestly creep me out a bit. I do find the game easier than the console version, which I didn't expect, probably due to a lot of levels being cut. This game does support the Super Game Boy, which is pretty cool. You get a border, some color, and much better music too. Like, I definitely commend them for trying, but this game is pretty awful. It feels very sluggish, it also is an incredibly slow game, and it's just not very appealing to look at. Like, it's not the worst, but certainly not very good. I'm gonna give this a low D. A Bug's Life on consoles is really good, and I feel I didn't give this game enough credit in the original video. It's the first Pixar game I truly think is great. The presentation is so good, it captures the movie pretty well for the time, and the music is just so good. And the gameplay is just really fun. I can't name another game that has a mechanic like the seed system where you can change it into whichever type of utility you want. It's so interesting. I love what they have you do with it, especially as the game goes on. Flick feels great to control and the levels are really fun. The only complaints I would have is the bosses are a complete joke and it's a little on the easier side of things, but otherwise I still think this is a great time. I'm gonna give this a high A, but it's very close to an S tier. On the flip side, this is one of the worst games I have ever played. No joke, the Game Boy Color game is one of the most miserable experiences I've ever had with a game. Like, to get the positives out of the way, the sprites look alright, and the Super Game Boy stuff is kinda cool, but that's about it. The controls are horrible, Flick is so stiff on the ground, and his jump feels so bad. Every time I try to jump, it feels so stiff, it made platforming really awful. The stages are just as bad too, super bland looking, there was nothing interesting going on at all, the throwing system also feels really bad, and it's a pain to try to hit enemies with anything with how awful Flick feels. And on top of all that, the music is so ear grating, it honestly hurt my ears the more I listened to it. I just don't have much else to say. This game was atrocious all around, and there was barely anything I liked about it. This is going in F tier easily, without question, one of the worst ones. Oh. So, like I said, I wasn't gonna count any PC only games, and I meant that. I'm not even counting the Finding Nemo PC game I talked about in the spin-offs video. But in case you were wondering, that game would easily go in D tier. But A Bug's Life Activity Center did come out on PS1 in PAL territories, and for the rules I set for myself, it does count and I must rank it too. I'm sure most of you didn't even know this existed, but it is what it says on the box. It's a point and click activity center game. You have a storybook you can play with, a board game, plenty of characters to interact with. It is what it sets out to do, and it's fine. I just personally don't find these games very interesting to talk about. Like, I'm sure there are people who did grow up with these games, and heck, even I grew up with that Learning with Nemo game. But these types of games, I just don't really find that interesting to go deep with, since there's only so much you can go into with a game like this. It does its job just fine, but it's not a very remarkable game either, outside of it being a pretty obscure game in the wider Pixar video game series. I'll give this a C tier, below Toy Story 1. This is one of my favorite games of all time. I absolutely love Toy Story 2 on consoles. Everything I said in the original video still holds up. I love how Buzz feels, the levels are all so well designed, the missions are really fun, the music is fantastic. What else can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? I love this game so much, I can't stress how well made this is. And as much as I really liked A Bug's Life, I think this is easily Traveler's Tale's best Pixar game without a doubt. I don't really have much else to say, this is an easy S tier. Anyways, the Game Boy version is just as bad as Bug's Life. Literally take all my complaints about the previous Game Boy game and apply them here. I hate how Buzz feels, why did they make him jump and run the same button, that's so annoying, the levels are so boring, why is Ham and Rex trying to kill Buzz, that makes no sense, the sprites just look off to me, and yeah, I hate this game probably even more than A Bug's Life. The only thing I liked about this one is the game over screen is pretty funny. Otherwise, this game is trash. F tier below Bug's Life. Let's move on. Buzz Lightyear of Star Command on consoles is a big mess. My thoughts haven't changed much since I talked about it in the spin-offs video. I just feel really bad for this game because there is a really cool idea here. The idea of a run and gun game that's also a racing game is a really cool concept, but it just doesn't mesh well at all. There is so much going on in these levels that it just becomes a mess to travel through with how many enemies there are. Not to mention the coins you need to buy new weapons and vehicles, plus also racing the villain of the stage, and as the game goes on, the levels just start getting worse and worse. The story is just non-existent. It's just not a very good game. There are positives, the models look hilarious, the music is great, and I do like the other medal challenges since those have a much simpler focus. It's just a shame because I love the show, but this is a game I just don't think works very well. I'm gonna place this at the top of D tier. The Game Boy version is more or less a demake of the console version. It's still a run and gun, plus you're racing the villain, but it's through an overhead view. The controls feel really rough, Buzz feels incredibly stiff, and just moving around is so clunky. The medals are also all on one stage instead of just separate missions. The game is a lot easier than the console version. Like, it's a far cry from how difficult it is in the console game. This is a cakewalk in comparison. I do like the music too, especially the 8-bit rendition of the theme song. The game is still a bit too chaotic at points. It's not as bad as the console version can get, but it can still be a bit much. Honestly, I think this game is about the same tier for me as the console version. I still don't really like it, and Buzz's control in this version really brings it down for me. That honestly would make me prefer the console one. At least in that version, Buzz felt just fine. But at least this game is way better than the previous Game Boy games, that's for sure. I'm gonna put this right below the console game in D tier. Toy Story Racer is just a fun time. It's a really well-made racing game with a bunch of stuff to do in single player. It's like if Mission Mode in Mario Kart DS was its own game. It's pretty cool. The controls feel great, fun power-ups, and a good roster too. You get a lot of variety in this one. And just like every other Traveler's Tales Pixar game, the music is fantastic. Not much else to say that I haven't already said in the spin-offs video. This is just a great racing game all around. I'm gonna give this an A tier, below A Bug's Life, but still pretty close. The Game Boy game is interesting. It uses pre-rendered FMV backgrounds, pretty impressive for the Game Boy Color, and yeah, it's a fine racing game. You have a small roster, the controls feel fine, the tournaments do tend on to go on for a little too long, but honestly, I just don't have much else to say I could add to this. Like, outside of its impressive backgrounds, it's a fine racing game, I guess. I don't really have strong feelings for this one. This is going in C tier, below Toy Story 1, but above A Bug's Life Activity Center. Monsters Inc. on the PS2 is so bad. Like, wow, I was way too nice to this game in the original video. Like, it's not the worst game, but it's pretty bad. The controls feel so slippery, the level design is really messy, the game honestly doesn't look very good, the platforming feels very clunky. It's just not a very good game at all, and I'm shocked I was this nice to it because it's pretty rough, honestly. There are positives, I like the music, and the VA work is pretty solid, but that's about it, to be honest. I heard this game did go through a pretty rough development, and that is unfortunate, but man, it's just not a good game whatsoever. This is going in D tier, below both Star Command games. The handheld versions, on the other hand, well, they do fare better at least. The Game Boy Color game is actually not too bad. It's definitely the best of the OG Game Boy games at least. This is basically a simple 2D platformer. You can control either Mike or Sully, and you're just trying to make it to the end of the stage. It's very simple, and I really love the sprite art. This is a great looking game for the system. The animations and expressions are really solid. I love how the art and the cutscenes look too. It's really cute. Levels aren't too bad either. Some of the maze stages are a bit much, but I like this game. It's nothing crazy, but I had a pretty good time with it. I'll put it in B tier. And as for the Game Boy Advance version, I also quite enjoyed this game too. Fun fact, this was one of the very few handheld games I grew up with. It came in a double pack with the Finding Nemo game, and I played this game quite a bit back then. This is an exploration-based game where you need to find a couple pieces of Boo's door to fight the boss of the world. You can only play as Sully, but he feels great, and I actually really enjoyed the exploration. It changes depending on what type of difficulty you pick too. It's not just enemies that change, like the game just becomes completely different. Like in easy mode, you get a smaller level with the door pieces labeled where they are, but in higher difficulties, the stages are much bigger, no door icons, or heck, in hard mode, you just don't even get a map at the start. It almost turns this game into a pseudo Metroidvania. It's really interesting how drastic the difficulty options are. I also like the bonus stages, the presentation is great for an early Game Boy Advance game, I love the sprite art, and the music is great. I quite enjoyed this one. It's still nothing crazy, but I had a good time with it. I'm happy that it's held up for me. I'm gonna put this in B tier, but above the Game Boy Color game. Now we have two spin-off games, Scare Island and Scream Arena. Scare Island is a 3D platformer that acts as a prequel to the movie, and my thoughts on it haven't really changed since the spin-offs video. I still think it's a solid platformer with a really fun presentation. Like, again, I love how goofy the models look and the vibrant colors look really nice. I think the levels are really fun, I love how both Mike and Sully feel. It's just a short and sweet little game. It's got issues, I think the backtracking really sucks, but otherwise I still enjoy this one. It did also get a PS2 release, but it's the exact same game, it just looks like that. So we're just ranking the general game here. I'll give Scare Island a B tier, above both Game Boy games. Now as for Scream Arena on the GameCube, I haven't played this one since my original video, and yeah, I don't really have much else to say on it. It's just a fun dodgeball game. I like the music, the mechanics are pretty cool. It's mostly a multiplayer centric game, but it's a fun one. It's honestly my favorite Monsters Inc. game. I don't know, I just like this game. It's not really deep, but I just don't really have much else to say about it other than it's a fun dodgeball game. I'll give this a B tier, above Scare Island. I was pretty mixed on the original Finding Nemo game. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it, and yeah, nothing really changed during this revisit. It's not a bad game, there is a lot to like here. The music is fantastic, and I could definitely see what they were trying to do. But man, I was just bored with this one. I found the gameplay very uninteresting, the levels just aren't that fun. This is a pretty dull experience. Like, it works, there isn't anything wrong with it. I just don't really care about this one. Not to mention, the difficulty curve gets insane later on, and the minigames I just don't really care much about. I don't think this is an awful game, it's nowhere near the worst. It's mostly a fine time, but this is one of those Pixar games I just really don't have strong feelings for. I'm gonna give it a C tier, below Toy Story 1. And honestly, you can apply everything to the Game Boy Advance game too. Again, I do have some memories with this one, like the Monsters Inc. game, but like the console game, I just found the core gameplay very uninteresting. Not to mention, this game looks pretty ugly for a Game Boy Advance game. I do not like how this looks at all. It's pretty ugly. And the 3D sections honestly gave me a little bit of a headache looking at them. But gameplay wise, it's fine and it's not awful, but I just don't have any strong feelings for this one either. I'm gonna give this a C tier, right below the console counterpart. Revisiting the Incredibles game, not much has changed since I looked at it a few years ago. I do enjoy it, but it's also a game I don't really like to go back to, because while there is a lot to like about this one, this also has some of the worst aspects of any Pixar game. Like, I love how it feels, and the platforming is very fun. I like the different playable characters too. But the insane difficulty later on is just too much, and the bosses, my gosh, these are atrocious with how long they go on for. Even the first boss just goes on for way too long, and there are no checkpoints either. It's rough. But despite all that, it's still a decent game, so it at least gets enough to be at the bottom of B tier. And the Game Boy Advance game was also pretty decent. It's just a simple beat 'em up. You're mostly playing as Mr. Incredible with occasional stages with one of the other family members. It's decent, but there isn't really a lot to go into. It feels good. I really dig the sprite art. It's a cute little beat 'em up for the Game Boy Advance, but again, not really much else to say on it. I'm gonna put this in B tier as well, but below the console game. So Finding Nemo had a couple handheld spin-off games, Continuing Adventures and Escape to the Big Blue. Kinda interesting that neither of these had console equivalents, so that does make them stand out. We'll start with the Game Boy Advance game, and it's pretty much a sequel to the movie. It showcases how the tank gang made it to the ocean, and that's pretty cool. But it's just a minigame collection, and I didn't really care about this one. I didn't really find any of the minigames super fun. Like, none of them were truly awful, but I was just going through the motion during most of these. I did each character's minigame, and there was just really nothing to think of. It was just such a whatever experience to me. This might be spoiler for games later in this list, but when it comes to some of these minigame collections, a lot of these aren't getting higher than a C tier at most. It's not an awful game, but it's going in C tier below both original Finding Nemo games. As for Escape from the Big Blue on DS, it's a little better. It's basically the same concept, but with different minigames using the touchscreen, and I guess I prefer it mostly because it's a little more exciting, but again, it's one of those minigame collections that just doesn't really do much. Funny thing, this game got a re-release on 3DS and DS with a special edition banner to tie in with the 3D release of the film, and I just find it really funny that this game got a re-release out of all handheld Pixar games. That's just hilarious. The only difference between the original DS version and both special editions is that the 3DS version looks a little better, and both special editions have scenes from the movie. Otherwise, it's the same game, so no reason to count them separately. I'll put this game above Continuing Adventures in C tier. Oh, Rise of the Underminer. The original Incredibles 2 before the actual Incredibles 2. It's a fascinating game to look back on in retrospect. When I covered it before, I was very lukewarm on it, and I thought the first game was a lot better. But I'm gonna be honest, and this might be a bit of a hot take, but I think I like Rise of the Underminer a lot more now than the first game. Like, don't get me wrong, the first game is definitely more varied, but I just think this game is a lot more consistent. Like, yes, it's just a regular beat 'em up, and the enemy variety could be better, but there wasn't a part in the game I really hated, unlike the first title, and I do like the core gameplay. It's relatively solid. Mr. Incredible and Frozone are pretty fun to play as, and I really dig each of their own abilities. The story, while it's nothing crazy, I love the banter between both of these characters. They work off each other pretty well. The bosses are actually decent, and they don't take forever like they do in the first game. I like this game now, and I definitely was a little too harsh towards it in the original video. It's nothing groundbreaking, and I could definitely see why people aren't big on this one, but I think it's solid enough that I would go back to it, and it doesn't reach any of the low points the first game had. So yeah, this might be a bit surprising, but I'm gonna put this game right above Incredibles 1 in B tier. And as for the handheld versions, I like these too. While both were on GBA and DS, they are the same game, just one's in 2D and one's 2.5D. So again, we're just gonna count this as one game. It's a simple platformer with some beat 'em up elements. That's basically it. There's not really a lot I could say about it. It's just solid at what it's trying to do, and it's not super long either. I would probably go for the DS version though. It plays a little smoother, you have a save system unlike the GBA version which only had passwords, and I don't know, I really like low poly DS games. I'm gonna place the GBA/DS iteration right below the console game in B tier. The original Cars game from 2006. I mean, yeah, it's still awesome. I mean, like Toy Story 2, nothing has changed since I last talked about it. It's still great. The open world is so cool to drive around in. I love the laid back story. The racing is very fun. The game, especially on 360, looks really nice. This is just a really well-made licensed game, and I'm happy to say it's still held up very well after all these years. I mean, I'm sure all of you know this game already, so I'll just cut to the chase. It's going in S tier. The handheld versions though, yeah, this is a little more of a mixed bag. The Game Boy Advance version is just flat out terrible. This is probably the worst GBA Pixar game. I can't stress enough how miserable this game was. It's a top-down racing game, but it feels really bad. You don't get enough screen real estate to see what you're doing. There's no music during the races, and the game just looks so ugly. I hated playing through this. It's one of the worst ones I've looked at. I guess the paint colors look kinda cool, but that's about it. It's going in F tier, without a doubt the worst Game Boy Advance Pixar game. The DS version is a lot better at least, but it's still not great. This is also one of the very few handheld Pixar games I did grow up with. I remember being given an R4 cartridge and it had this game in it. And I remember it was a game that I played and that was about it. Going back to it, it's another minigame collection like some of the Finding Nemo games, and yeah, I still wasn't crazy about this one. I do find the minigames a bit more engaging in this one, but not by that much. It's still just a really dull minigame collection, which is perfectly fine. There isn't much wrong with this game, but it's not a title I have strong feelings for. I'm gonna put this in C tier above the Finding Nemo games. The PSP iteration is thankfully the best of the handheld games, and it's quite good for what it is. It's more of a pure racing game, but it just feels really great and the tracks are really fun. I also appreciate that it's more challenging than the console version. Like, this game can be pretty tricky, and I really like that. I don't really have much else to say. It's just a really good racing game and one of the more underrated Pixar games. I'm gonna give this an A tier below Toy Story Racer. It's kinda crazy that there are 5 different iterations of this game, 6 if you want to count Food Frenzy. By far the single Pixar movie with the most unique game iterations. So let's start with Asobo's Ratatouille. Ever since that video, this game has really climbed up for me. It's honestly now one of my favorite Pixar games. The controls feel great, the levels are so well made, the dream stages are really fun. I love the soundtrack, and how the heists play out in each world is so cool. This is just a great platformer, and I really think it's up there as being one of the best Pixar games. I'm giving this an S tier, right below Cars 1. It's still a great time. But as my love for Asobo's Ratatouille grew, my hatred for Heavy Iron's Ratatouille has gotten a lot worse. I really tried to go into this with an open mind, and I'm sorry, but I still really dislike this game. Even if we're not comparing this to the other version, it's still really bad. Remy feels awful, he's way too heavy, it's a very slow game, the missions are very boring, the charm system adds nothing. I just really dislike this game, and if we're comparing this to the other version, this does everything worse outside of the graphics. Yeah, I don't know, man. I know this might be a bit harsh, but this is an F tier for me. I just hate it too much for it to go any higher. As for the handheld versions, the Game Boy Advance game didn't really grab me. It's not bad, but I was really bored with this one. I didn't really like how Remy felt. I think the levels are just way too convoluted since you need certain ingredients to finish the stage, and I was just really bored with it. Like, it's not terrible, and I do really like the art style, but I just didn't care about this one. I'm putting this in C tier below the Finding Nemo games, but above Toy Story Racer. The DS version is actually pretty decent though. The platforming feels really good, I like the level design quite a bit, it goes for a more cozy tone than the other versions, which I really enjoy. The only thing that really brings it down is the cooking minigames. I didn't like any of these, they were way too picky with the stylus inputs, I didn't really enjoy them. But overall, it's a decent game. I'll put this at the bottom of B tier. Oh, and just to quickly get this over with, Food Frenzy is trash. Just terrible minigames, all of them were awful, and just a snooze fest. The touchscreen was so picky about my inputs, I was getting really annoyed by this game the more I played it. At least with the Finding Nemo and Cars minigame collections, they at least weren't this bad. This, however, was so obnoxious, and I couldn't stomach much more of this game. This is going in F tier below Heavy Iron's game. Finally, the PSP iteration, and this one was really good. Unlike the other version, it's a sequel to the movie, which is pretty cool. It's interesting to see where the story would go if it had continued. It's nothing crazy, but I appreciate the extended Ratatouille lore. But gameplay wise, this is just a great platformer. I love the controls, the level design is very solid, the upgrade system is very cool. It's a pretty nice looking game for the PSP. I just had a really fun time with this one, and I really wished I grew up with this game. Like, I still prefer Asobo's Ratatouille, but the PSP game is a fun time as well. I'll give this an A tier above Cars 1 on PSP. Mater National is the sequel to the first Cars game, and it's not much different. It's still an open world racing game, and even more laid back story. It still feels great, and the game even looks a little nicer. But it's literally Cars 1 again. It's a good game, I still enjoy it, but like I said when I last talked about it, it really lacks an identity. It doesn't really stand out to me. Like, if I didn't tell you this was Mater National, you'd probably assume I was just showing footage from the first game. I just wish it was a bigger step forward for the series. They definitely could have made it stand out a bit more, but it's still pretty good. And I'm gonna put this at the bottom of B tier for now. And as for the handheld games, these fared pretty good. The Game Boy Advance game was the last Pixar title for the system, and wow, it's a technical showcase for the Game Boy Advance. It's a 3D racing game, and it's pretty impressive looking for sure. It feels pretty good for what it is, and I definitely think it's a lot better than the previous Cars game. But honestly, I don't really see this game going up very high on the tier list. Like, it's cool, but at the same time, it's a little nauseating for me to really play much of it. It's a really impressive looking game, but I just can't stomach it for that long without getting sick. It's the reason I'm not really a big fan of a lot of 3D Game Boy Advance games. I'll put this in high C tier below Toy Story 1. The DS version is pretty solid. It's a standard racing game instead of being a minigame collection, and it's pretty fun. It feels great, I love the low poly DS models, it's pretty challenging. Otherwise, it's a good racing game, much better than the GBA game, but not much else to add on it. I'm gonna put this in B tier below the Monsters Inc. games. Oh, WALL-E. What a cool selection of games, with 3 versions. When I looked at both the Asobo and Heavy Iron games, I liked them both, but they didn't really grab me. Revisiting them though, they started to grow on me quite a bit. With the Asobo game, I really liked the puzzles a lot, and the Eve sections were really fun. I think it's just a really well-made game, and hey, I love that it's now on PS4 and 5, that's awesome. As for Heavy Iron's game, I still like it, and heck, I even played the PS3 version for this. Originally I played the Wii version, but after playing both, I do think the Asobo game is better. I prefer the more puzzle-centric style Asobo's game goes for, rather than Heavy Iron's platforming approach. Again, still good, but that's just how I feel. I'm gonna put Asobo's WALL-E at the bottom of A tier below Cars 1, and Heavy Iron's WALL-E is gonna go at the top of B above Mater National. Would you believe me if I said my favorite version of WALL-E is actually the DS game? Yeah, I mean it. I was really surprised by this one. Firstly, look at the art style. It's adorable. I love the cartoony style it goes for. It's so cute. And the gameplay? Well, it's a really good puzzle game. It's a top-down game where you're trying to get WALL-E to the end, and it's really fun. I love the different boxes you could use to get over obstacles. It's really cool. Plus, again, the Eve sections are pretty fun. I think the reason I like this version the most is I just like the gameplay style the most here. Not to say the other two do it badly, no, not at all. But I just had the most fun with this one. I'm gonna give the DS version an A tier, right above Asobo's WALL-E. Please give this one a shot, it's definitely an underrated little game. I'm just gonna bunch these 3 together because I feel the same about all of them. The Up games are all co-op based adventure games, similar to the LEGO games, and they're all fine. In fact, I was definitely a little too harsh to both console games in the original video. Because honestly, they really aren't that bad. There's really nothing wrong with them. They do exactly what they set out to do. But I just find them all to be really bland, and now playing the DS version here, I feel the same way too. They don't really excite me, and I've played way better co-op games than any of these. And I just really wasn't crazy about any of the mechanics. I do like the presentation of all the versions, but that's about it. They're fine games what they are, but I just don't really care about them. I'm gonna put all three in C tier above the Finding Nemo games. Now this is a sequel. Unlike Manor National, Rama feels like an evolution of what came out beforehand. The mechanics feel better, you have brand new locations, a fun story, lots of customizations with Lightning McQueen. This game is great, and everything I said about it in the spin-offs video still holds true. This is just a great racing game, and while I do prefer the original game, Rama is one of the best games here. I'm gonna put this one in A tier, right below A Bug's Life. As for the handheld game, it's about the same for me as Manor National on DS. This one was actually both on PSP and DS, but they are the same game. The only difference is that the PSP game just looks and plays better, but otherwise it's the exact same game, so we're just gonna count them as one. It's still a solid racing game. It looks nice. Basically everything I said about the previous Cars DS game, you could apply it here too. I do think Rama is the better title though. I just like the sense of speed this game gives off. It's very fun. Not much else to say. I'm putting Rama on DS/PSP in B tier above Manor National DS. Avalanche's Toy Story 3 is the perfect Pixar game. I still stand by it being one of the best movie tie-in games ever made. It is such a polished game from top to bottom. The adventure mode is very fun, and there's so many fun set pieces going for it. The core gameplay is very smooth, and I love each character's different abilities. This game looks fantastic. It's held up really well. And then of course, you have the legendary toy box. This fun sandbox that you can spend so much time in, it's amazing. There is a reason this game is getting a re-release. It's just such a well-crafted experience, and I'm really happy more people are going to be playing it now. I'm putting this game at the very top of S tier. It's still the Pixar game to play. As for Asobo's version, I still think this is a great platformer. I love the movement in this one too, and I really dig how different the missions are in this version. Sure, there's no toy box, but the story mode is still a lot of fun. My opinion about it hasn't changed much. I still think you should give this one a shot too, and I'm happy it's on PS4 and 5 now, so it's a lot more accessible. I'm gonna put this game in A tier, just below A Bug's Life. The DS version though, honestly, I was really disappointed. It really just came down to the controls and how long the minigames went on for. Movement felt very stiff. It felt really awkward whenever I tried to jump. The minigames it had to do went on for way too long, especially this one with Woody. My gosh, I just wanted it to end with how long it was. I do think the game looks pretty nice for the DS, but that's about it. I really didn't like this one, unfortunately. I do feel bad because this is the only version of Toy Story 3 that won't be playable on modern platforms, but at the same time, there isn't much here to salvage. This is gonna be a bit mean, but I'm gonna place this in D tier right below Monsters Inc. Toy Story Mania is a game that exists. It is just a shooting gallery, and that's all it is. Both the Wii and PS3 iterations are just shooting galleries and not much else to it. I get it's based on the ride, but you could have added something else to make the experience a little more interesting. I don't usually call licensed games shovelware, but Toy Story Mania is literally the definition of shovelware. This is a game that has nothing interesting going on, and I just don't care about this one. I do think the PS3 version is better, but even then, it's still so shallow. They aren't the worst games or anything like that, but I just feel nothing while playing them. I'm putting both versions at the top of D tier. Mater's Tall Tales is another game that just exists. It's a neat idea, making the Tall Tales shorts into minigames, but I was just on autopilot playing through this game. I like the ability to customize your own car's OC, but that's kind of it. I thought the minigames were all very mediocre, and again, it doesn't help that I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of these Pixar minigame collections. It's not awful, and it is better than the Toy Story Mania games, but it's not great. It's going at the very bottom of C tier. Avalanche's Cars 2 is pretty fun. This is one of those movie tie-in games that's actually better than the movie. It's a fun kart racer, I love how it feels, and the track design is really solid. You also have a pretty cool selection of characters, and presentation-wise, it's really nice. I still really enjoy this one. I'm gonna give this an A tier above Toy Story Racer, but below Racer Rama. The handheld equivalents though, these aren't anything too special. The DS and 3DS versions are the same game, and they have a cool idea. It's still a racing game, but it also includes these stealth sections. That's kinda neat. But both of these I just thought were okay. In fact, the whole game I just thought was okay. It was probably the most okay game I've ever played. It does nothing really wrong, but nothing super amazing. It is the definition of alright. I'll put this in C tier right below Toy Story 1. The PSP version is really weird. Like, I never heard anyone talk about this version before because I thought it was just going to be the console game but a bit downgraded. And while it shares the exact same menus, it's instead this weird top-down racing game. And it's fine, it plays okay. I'm just more confused on why it's a top-down game. And that's all it is, it's just a simple top-down racing game. It does it better than Cars 1 on GBA, but top-down racing games just aren't really my thing, and the game itself I just thought was fine. I'm gonna give this a C tier, above the Finding Nemo games, but below the Up titles. Similar to the Cars 2 console game, Brave I think is a game that I think is much better than the movie. This is just a really well-made adventure game. I love the element system and it feels great. Everything I said about it in the previous Pixar video still holds true. It's great and I hope people give it a shot because it's a really well-made game. I'm giving this one an A tier right below Asobo's Toy Story 3. And the DS version is pretty solid too. It's basically a demake of the console game. Similar mechanics with the element system and you're still platforming and killing enemies with your bow and sword. It's fun. It's not as good as the console game, but I think this is a pretty cool little title. I'm gonna put this in B tier, right below Mater National. There is a lot to like about this one. Like at its core, yeah, it's nothing special gameplay wise, it's just a standard Kinect game, but it plays well enough. Well, at least the remaster on Xbox One and PC with normal controls that I played. I still have not tried it with an actual Kinect and probably will never will. But there is just so much love put into this game in terms of fan service. Like, you could tell the developers really love Pixar, which makes sense, they already handled some Pixar games before, but I love that every world feels so accurate to their respective source material and it's a great looking game. It's definitely one of the best looking Pixar games. It's a real love letter to the entire studio. Like sure, as a game it's nothing crazy, but as a Pixar experience, I gotta give it all its flowers. I'm putting this at the bottom of A tier. Cars 3 Driven to Win is basically the follow-up to the Cars 2 game. It's very similar to the previous title, and while I don't think it quite reaches the levels of its predecessor, I still have a good time with it. It still feels pretty good, visually it's fantastic, and I enjoy the tracks. But I do feel Cars 2 had the stronger selection of race courses and roster. This game is good, but I could definitely see why this one is not as fondly remembered as the previous title. I'm gonna put this in B tier, above Brave on DS. And finally, the last game for the video, LEGO Incredibles. It's a good LEGO game, but that's kind of it. Not much has changed since I covered it in the spin-offs video. It's a fun retelling of both movies, but that's about it. It's one of those games that I play once, but don't really have a strong need to revisit it. It's good. It's a quality LEGO title, but I just think it's solid. It doesn't really go beyond that. I'm gonna put this in B tier, right above Scream Arena. And there you have it, every Pixar console and handheld game reviewed and ranked. I can't stress enough how fun this video was to make. Going through all these games, both ones I've talked about and brand new ones I haven't talked about before, was really fascinating, just seeing how varied the quality was between these titles. We have both some of the worst games I've ever played, but also some of my favorite games of all time. It was an experience for sure. I'm just really happy to finally be concluding this little retrospective that's been going on since Toy Story 1. A lot of people found me from the Pixar stuff, and if you've been here since the start or anywhere else during this channel's little existence, thank you so much for watching this video. It means so much that people love to see me talk about games that are mostly forgotten. Like, is there anyone who remembers Food Frenzy or Bug's Life Activity Center? Probably, but I just love talking about this type of stuff. I love bringing the more obscure stuff into life, and sure, I love talking about the well-known games too, but it's the weird games I like to talk about the most, and there was plenty here. I'm just really happy that people love seeing me do this type of stuff. It means the world. So, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been sticking with me since the start, or anywhere else from this channel's existence. It really means a lot. This may be the end of an era, but this was just such a fun journey. Thank you so much for watching this long video till the end. Hope you have a great day, and take care.